英國政府上個星期公布咗修改永居條件嘅諮詢文件。雖然 BNO 簽證持有人可以繼續用現行嘅5+1途徑申請永居，但係政府提出新嘅收入同埋英語要求，令到申請門檻大幅提高。
BNO visa holders are not foreigners; they are British nationals. It is time the government treated them as such.
負責移民事務嘅內政部官員今日喺國會辯論上面話，未來12個星期嘅諮詢會詳細處理外界嘅憂慮。佢承認在英港人喺收入審查同埋語文要求上邊可能面對困難，但係就未有俾到任何實質嘅承諾。
Retaining a 5-year settlement period for BNO visa holders provides certainty to Hong Kongers and ensures the UK continues to honour its historical commitments. The BNO route will be included in the new earned settlement framework, with those holding a BNO visa given a 5-year reduction from the 10-year qualifying period. The new mandatory requirements for settlement are basic requirements that we think are reasonable in general for people to meet if they settle here. But we are interested in views on whether certain groups should be exempt from these, and I stress now, no decisions have been made on this.
今日嘅辯論喺國會西敏大廳舉行，由國會議員 James Naish 發起。除咗會議主席之外，一共有27名跨黨派嘅議員發言，大部分焦點都落喺 BNO 港人嘅情況。
The paper confirmed that the government remains fully committed to the BNO route, and the Home Secretary went further on the floor of the House by noting that this country has, and I quote, always supported the repatriation of Hong Kongers. The word repatriation is important. It communicates the sense that the UK sees Hong Kongers as people who rightfully belong here and whose presence is understood and recognised.
James Naish 提到，新要求會對唔少 BNO 簽證持有人帶嚟影響，例如申請永居要喺3至5年之內，每年收入至少達到12,570英鎊。佢話 BNO 一向唔係經濟移民路線，好多家庭收入低、資產高，能夠自給自足，但係就未必符合僵化嘅薪金要求。佢亦都指唔少 BNO 簽證持有人已經付費考咗 B1 英語試，如果將要求加到 B2， 佢哋就可能被拒諸門外。
Now, over the weekend, over 5,000 BNO visa holders completed a survey about these proposals. The results show that if the requirements outlined were strictly applied, with no transitional arrangements, only 8% of BNO households would expect all members in the household to be able to apply for ILR after 5 years in the UK, and 43% of households said no one would be eligible for ILR at the 5-year point.
佢列出5大最受影響嘅群組，包括自僱者、家庭照顧者、在學青年、長者，以及難以喺短時間之內通過語文考試嘅家庭。
I therefore want to ask the Minister today whether he would consider, firstly, if the government is to impose a financial test, could this be an assessed contribution at a household level rather than for each person in isolation? Secondly, would the government consider introducing transitional arrangements so that anyone already on a pathway to ILR is not subject to new conditions retrospectively? Thirdly, would the government consider exempting the BNO route from the changes altogether, having openly acknowledged their historic attachment to the United Kingdom? And fourthly, if these new rules are needed, would the government look into common sense exemptions for pensioners, children, disabled people and others for whom earning and linguistic potential is likely to remain low?
辯論嘅期間，議員特別關注到在英港人嘅安全，更改永居條件將會令香港人進退兩難。
Many made an irreversible decision to come to the UK to flee political persecution and repression. For many, returning to Hong Kong is not an option. Changes to indefinite leave to remain requirements could put BNOs in an impossible position, unable to settle in the UK and unable to return to Hong Kong.
Because the reality is there are many Hong Kongers in our own community now who fear the long arm of the Chinese Communist Party. And if they are not secure in their position here, the reality is they could be, or at least in their own minds they could be, dragged back to Hong Kong and very severely punished in pretty horrific ways, as Jimmy Lai demonstrates.
多名議員亦都強調，喺呢一刻改規例有違公平，亦都背叛咗香港人。
Let's avoid retroactive changes. Let's make sure transitional arrangements protect anyone already on the pathway. And let's keep the BNO route grounded in the principles it was built on: sanctuary, clarity and trust.
If it were to shift the goalposts now, we risk placing them in an impossible position, unable to settle here, unable to return home. That would be a betrayal, not only of policy, but of principle.
議員亦都關注到新建議對於1997年之後出生冇 BNO 資格，但係因為政治風險而需要嚟到英國嘅年輕人嘅影響。
Many young activists, particularly those born after 97 or whose parents never registered for the BNO status, have no safe legal route to the UK. They are compelled to travel to the UK as visa-free visitors and only claim asylum once inside the country. They fear declaring an asylum intention at the border would lead to detention or being refused entry and return to Hong Kong.
總結目前政府需要回應嘅問題，最終落喺反對黨議員嘅身上。
What, therefore, will BNO visa holders and their dependents need to demonstrate in relation to new income or economic contribution requirements? Will the current English language standard for settlement of B1 on the BNO route be maintained, or will it be B2? And what steps are the government taking to ensure that those born after 1997 have protection?
內政部政務次官 Mike Tapp 回應嘅時候強調，由於相關嘅改革諮詢期啱啱開始，現階段未有最終嘅答覆，但係佢亦都暗示政府喺處理上邊具備一定嘅彈性。
But I have listened to you all today, and we are consulting on transitional arrangements for those who are here, for such as vulnerable groups and those within the BNO route. We are also consulting on the English language levels, which I've heard spoken about by a number of members today. Also the concerns raised by a number of you again around assets versus income. It's a strong argument, and that will be taken into consideration when making these decisions. And also the possibility of extension of the route for those born after 1997.